Hi, my name is Pat Riesenberger and I'm the Crafty Retailer. Today we're going to demonstrate a very easy introduction to felting project. We're going to make a felted soap. They make wonderful hostess gifts. They're also very functional. I'm going to be using a bar of Kiss My Face soap. It's an olive oil soap that is very easy to felt. I've got some merino wool scraps here, as well as some Swarovski Crystal decorations that we're going to use to embellish. Alright, so the first thing that I'm going to do is pick up some of my merino and separate it out. When I'm wrapping the soap, I don't want to be using too thick of a piece of fiber. What I'm doing is just fluffing out my fibers so that I can separate them a bit. I'll get some good coverage on the soap, and I won't have that issue with a big felted soap ball that we were discussing. The way that I do this is I start out by covering my corners. You can see that the edges of this soap are really sharp, and so I want to make sure I get them covered so that none of the soap is peeking through. So I'm simply going to wrap my fabric, or my merino, around the soap, and I'm going to expand my fibers a little bit so that I get a little bit more coverage and it's not as thick. Okay, I think that we're pretty good there. Now, okay, you want to take a close-up look to see what the piece looks like before we start the felting. It's very puffy. I think my fibers to stay in place. I'm going to take a pantyhose, and these are very helpful in the felting studio in a variety of ways, but today I'm going to use it to basically imprison my fiber. Okay? And now I want to add some hot water to my little Tupperware container here, and I'm going to dip the soap in and start felting. Now, it's actually very cold here where I am. I'm in Florida, and we normally don't have cold weather. It's very cold this week, and the cold seems to slow down the felting process, so this might take a little bit longer for me, but normally this whole process takes me about 5 minutes. And what I'm doing is I'm rubbing the piece. So I'm going to do this for a few minutes, and then we'll take a look. Okay. So I've been rubbing for a few minutes, and I'm going to take off the little pantyhose sweater and take a look and see how the progress is going. Sometimes the fibers will actually stick to the pantyhose a little bit, and you'll have to use a minor amount of pull to get them off. I'm not experiencing that now. In any event, you can see how much the fiber has shrunk, and now is really pretty well attached to the bar of soap. One thing that I didn't mention before is that unlike typical felting where we work with some soapy water like I have here, we don't need to add that to this piece because the soap itself is giving us the soap that we need. That's one of the reasons that I choose to always felt over a bar of olive oil soap, because it's just the most gentle on the fibers. It's also gentle on the skin. Okay, I think that I'm pretty well felted. If I had some spots that hadn't felted enough, I would actually throw the bar down and do some, give it a little bit of pressure, make those fibers tighten up in the fulling process. This worked beautifully. We don't need to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and let that dry. And in the meantime, I'm going to work on a little bit of a flower that's going to go on the front and give it a little bit of decoration. So what I'm going to do is make a couple of little circles and out of the pink fiber so that we have a little bit of contrast, and those will ultimately be my little flower. One of the nice things about this project is that it's very simple, it's very fast, and you can do it with an 8-year-old, you can do it with an 80-year-old. It doesn't require a lot of upper body strength like some felting does, and everybody becomes an expert at it very quickly. So it's very gratifying. Plus the soap smells good, so people like to receive it as a gift. Just gone around in a circular motion to lay out a little teeny bit of fiber, not much at all. This whole project, you're going to use maybe 20 grams of fiber, so it's very, very cost effective as a make and take project for your store if you should choose to do it. I'm going to cover my fibers with a piece of tulle, and then I'm just going to sprinkle some of the hot water onto them. There was enough soap residue left over from my felting of this bar of soap that I don't even need to add any more soap to this project. I don't know if you can see here, but I've got a lot of suds working, and they'll take care of the felting for me. Really, that little teeny bit of felting and we're almost done. Okay, I've now got my flower pieces fully felted. I went ahead and did a couple of pieces that I could use as leaves as well, and you can see that they're not very flower-like at this point. So basically I'm going to make a kind of an organic circle shape. I really, you don't need to use a template. You don't need to be very well defined. That's good enough for me now. Do the other one. This will be the second petal that'll go on top. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And after I do that, we're going to go ahead and do a little bit more rubbing so that I can soften the edges that I've cut. They're now, it's a fabric wound basically. The felt has opened up and expanded, and I want to get a nice closed edge. So I'm just going to rub it against the felt, and that'll take care of those edges and seal them for me. Okay. Now as we're doing this, the piece that we continue to fold, the flower shapes will get a little bit smaller, but they'll be fine for our purposes. And I'm going to do the same with my leaves. I'm just going to cut them into a very loose leaf shape. I kind of like the organic nature, and I don't get real technical or feel the need for a template so that it's perfect. I just want to get it done. I want to get it done fast, and I want it to look pretty. So the quickest way to get there is usually the approach I take. All right. So now what I'm going to do, after I dry off my hands, I've got some Fireline, which is a thread that works well with Swarovski crystals. Swarovski crystals have a tendency to have very sharp edges, and if you try to use regular thread to sew one on, you'll wind up having some breakage. It'll cut through, the crystal will actually cut through the thread. So what I'm going to do, I've gathered some little 10mm sew-ons in a color that will complement my piece, and I'm going to sew the leaf, do it all in one fell swoop. I'm putting my layers on. I don't know, can you see that? Putting my layers on. I'm going to go through and sew this little piece on. I'm not knotting it, and I'm leaving a really long tail because we're going to use that tail later to attach the flower to the felt piece. So give me a minute, let me get this sewn together, and then we'll go on to the next step. Attached my little flower together. I have it little Swarovski crystal embellishing it to give it a little bling. And now what I'm going to do, and this is all wet. I'm working with it wet. If I were going to use this as a make and take project in a retail store, I would want to be moving it right along. There's no reason to wait for it to dry. It's not going to hurt anything. So putting this right onto the into the soap. And it's real easy to do. The fiber is nice and thick. I'm working with a thread that is fairly invisible, so I'm just going to pick up and stitch very securely, because the idea is that this soap, although it's going to be very pretty to look at and will serve a nice function aesthetically in a guest bathroom, it's fully functional. You can use it even with the crystal on it. The crystal might get a little soapy. Just wipe the soap off. You can use it. Alternatively, I've heard that people take the flower off and use it as part of a barrette or a little brooch, which is a nice thought too. And the soap can be used as it gets smaller. The felt will actually shrink around the bar as the bar shrinks, and so you've got a nice washcloth against your skin. It feels really nice and soft, all easy, and it is successful for everybody. So have fun felting.